Right, well, as I said at the top of the show, the lifting of Victoria's fifth lockdown this morning might be sold by the Premier's boosters as a big political win, but it's little relief for the state's hospitality industry. This is lockdown lighter, not lockdown relief. Thousands of businesses, pubs, restaurants, cafes, they'll continue to face strict density limits, and the prospect of future lockdowns, Premier won't rule them out, and of course border closures. Many in this proud industry say they're just days away from ruin, and of course the Premier, as I said, won't rule out more. Well, for more on this, I want to bring in the Executive Director of Small Business Australia, Bill Lang, and the owner of Panama Dining Rooms and Merit, a familiar face here on Credlin, Luke Stepsys. Luke, I'd start with you if I can first. First to shut up and last to reopen. Give us a sense of how difficult it's been over the past months.
Oh, it's been shattering. I mean, the mood down here in the industry tonight is just bewilderment. You know, Daniel Andrews again has killed a mouse with a missile. And we're back to where we were potentially 17 months ago, and nothing's changed. You know, the restrictions to reopen are unworkable. And as a business community, I mean, how much more are small business owners meant to fork out? You know, how much more losses are we meant to suffer? You know, our employees are struggling, you know, the small business community is struggling, and we're just, you know, piggy in the middle of political games, and it doesn't seem to be a lot of end in sight.
Bill Lang, you talk to dozens of small business operators every day. I've spoken to a lot of restaurateurs today. They say they can't reopen with these sort of lockdown-like continuing restrictions. What are people telling you today?
It's a very similar story, Peter. We really got lockdown 5.5. And let's remember, Victoria is now more than 180 days. You know, we have a government that wants to keep everyone hanging on the line, yet it seems that the AFL and the schools know a couple of days ago that things are going to be opening back up. But, you know, 25% limit on people going back to the workplace, still having to wear masks. The other thing is small business families. And when we say small business families, we mean the owners and their employees. And here in Victoria, that's 1.4 million adult voters. They've paid the biggest financial price, the greatest mental and emotional health costs of any other sector of the community. And they shake their heads and they say to themselves things like, so the brothels are allowed to be open, right? You can go to a brothel. I bet you there's no scanning of the COVID-safe QR code there, but you can't go and visit your relatives. So there's still limits on being able to actually visit your friends and family in terms of going to homes. It might be good news for some of the churches, because if you're going to have a wedding, get it in a church, you can have 100 people, but you can't go down to Luke's business. He can only have 50 in the business. There's a lack of any understanding and an absolute lack of any empathy, and therefore no care from this government in Victoria in terms of understanding the ongoing crisis of confidence that their whole approach to the management of the pandemic and the direct costs they're putting on small business families.
Luke, what would your message be to the Premier if he was of a mind to even listen to small business?
I think whatever I would say would be pointless, because it's obvious that he doesn't care and he won't listen. I mean, Martin Pakula said it himself last week when he offered us a measly $3,200 as the original grant to compensate for 1 week of lockdown. And he said simply that restaurant owners shouldn't expect that the state Victorian government are going to replace the lost revenue. They know that the money that they're providing is highly inadequate, and they're relying on people like me to keep dipping into life savings, to pay our staff, to pay our suppliers, to pay the rent, the electricity and the power and the gas. And that money's running out for everybody. All of us are in various levels of debt. There's only so many things that you can do to go to the bank, take out lines of credit, sell your house. You know, all we require is some certainty, not tough words, not political slogans, not finger pointing. You know, look at the community and sense the anger and the hurt and the upset and do something about it. You know, if vaccinations are the answer, where's the roadmap post-vaccination? What's the target to hit? I would like to know at what point am I going to have to sell my house just to hang on? Because it will get to that point.
Oh, look, you're not wrong. Bill, you are at the front line of all of this. You've got a new campaign, I'm told, to help small and family businesses get through this. Tell me about it.
Peter, look, and we would encourage every one of your viewers to get over to sosbiz.com.au and click the button to show your support, because it's actually every level of government We really need to see, forget about JobKeeper 3, forget about the big companies. They've got balance sheets, they can look after themselves, but small business families need to see that every Australian citizen is behind them, so we can send a strong signal to, Scott Morrison. Listening to Andrew just then earlier on the show, it sounds like he's the guy calling the shots. ScoMo is getting known increasingly as ScoNo with respect to direct support for small business families. But there's also things like the Fair Work Act. Some of these contracts, all these contracts we've got that we've entered into before COVID hit, yet we're still subject to them. And we have numerous examples of very powerful private business operators screwing over very poor small business families on things like rent and financing costs and other things. Like it's, some of the big and strong are eating the weak. It is un-Australian. And we need to basically see the Prime Minister say, well, look, here is the roadmap, out. Let's put some dates around it. It doesn't take 4 weeks for the Doherty Institute to run a couple of thousand simulations. It takes a couple of days. Pick some numbers, put them out there, and given that the premiers are running the country, we always knew that COAG was a great coagulation, and all we had is this ScoMo rebranding it into a so-called cabinet.
Not wrong.
We know Dan Andrews is running the show. It's time to show leadership, step up there in Canberra and say, here's how we're going to support small business families with respect to Fair Work Act relaxation. None of this happening, none of that happening. More direct financial support.
All right, well, my viewers...
We're at lockdown 5.5 now. They're just going to keep coming, Peter.
My viewers are huge supporters of small business. I'm sure they'll get onto that website. I'll put it up on my Facebook page as well. Bill Lang, Luke Stepsys, thank you for your time. All the best, Luke.
Thank you, Peter.
We appreciate your time tonight on Credlin.